Welcome to the Narrate podcast, where we aim to tell God's story with our lives. We'll be continuing to post the Sunday message each week, but we want to dive a little deeper and offer some content to supplement your life with God, and that's where our Beyond Sunday series comes in. Join Adam and Narrate staff as they provide thoughtful discussions, ideas, and interviews that go beyond the message you'll hear on Sunday. So I'm sitting with Adam, and he's gonna talk a little bit about the Managing Fear series coming up. We did a kind of a similar episode before the Generosity Practice series, and I just think it's kind of helpful. So when we got into that series, you kind of had like this impetus of like why, you know, like what prompted you to want to talk about generosity. Do you have that with Managing Fear?
I mean, this is kind of the way we used to do series, in that I think I just noted, I don't know when it was, it must have been this last spring, that there was a series of studies that I had done, kind of driven by my own need and interest. I was like, oh, I think there might be a series here. So sometimes they happen this way when it's not necessarily a topic. I wasn't setting out to write a series. It was just a series of things that I needed to work through on my own. And a lot of it actually, I guess I was going to say a lot of it I think might have been inspired by when Hannah talked about the screw tape letters. That kind of, which must have been last year, like around November or something.
That seems right. Yeah.
And then I reread that and was kind of blown away at all that C.S. Lewis had to say in there about fear, and found that really empowering and challenging. And I think that might have been what started me to go kind of re-engage some things. Okay. It's also the first series, it's like you'll be gone theoretically for this.
I know.
Birth has occurred.
Launch day has happened, as you keep saying.
I never know if that's like demeaning or not.
I think it's awesome.
Do you have any fear associated with giving birth?
Well, yeah. That's like the ultimate, life change.
Yeah.
But I think it's great.
Is it giving birth or having a child?
Both. Yeah, both. Like in different ways for sure. That's a huge life change. But I think fear is one of those things, it doesn't have to be a huge life change for people to have fear, for you to have fear. I mean, I was going to ask you if it was this time of year that sparked it, but I'm I don't. Do you have an answer for that? I don't know.
I mean, I suspect, that it sounds so trivial, but my trip to Atlanta late last February I suspect that must have all kind of, once I clicked yes and said yes to going to Atlanta, that probably prompted some stuff. And then there's one line in particular in Screw Tape Letters. There's one line in particular in Screw Tape Letters where he says, make sure that you have them think about what they're feeling, not what it is that the enemy would have them do. And of course, remember, everything's inverted in Screw Tape Letters, so it's a demon telling another demon, get your subject, the human, to focus on what they're feeling, not what God would have them do. And
sure.
That very likely was probably one of the, that to me is just this profound thought of, so that sparked me to study the fear of God, which I haven't really spent any time with in a long time. And then the first instance of that, which is Abraham's call to sacrifice Isaac, which is a very weird story, but I didn't realize that's the first time in the Bible the fear of God is referenced.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So we're going to start there. And then we read that book, The Failure of Nerve, as a staff. What do you recall about that book? What stood out to you personally?
I don't know if I would have automatically associated that book with fear, right away. It was really good. I remember that. I remember that there's just a lot of interpersonal, relating to people type things that I really appreciated in that book about, not standing your ground. That's not the right word, but being genuine and authentic and not afraid to go against the crowd, which I guess is kind of a fear thing.
Sure, fear of people,
especially
maybe.
Midwest nice area that we're in. It's hard. And then you throw in if you're a people pleaser, or if you're a this, or you're that, like, it's hard to do that, or go against the grain, and, like, do some of those things. So I guess it's definitely has some fear components in there for sure.
Yeah, I forget the author's name even, but it was written in the 90s, I think. He was one of the original, like, family systems guys, and
right, yeah.
To me, what's crazy about that book is he predicted that this culture of great anxiety was coming.
That's right, yeah.
Because we're so afraid to break free from the crowd, and what he's really speaking to is that at its worst, then leaders don't lead. They don't do unpopular things.
Yep.
Hence so we're going to spend a week on that. For me personally, I'm definitely by nature a more cautious person. His flipping of the word anxiety, like I think even in my notes I was reading this morning, I had this comment to myself that anxiety and adventure are two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. That's the part of that book that was inspiring to me, is just the embrace of adventure, which isn't hard to grab hold of that from God and Scripture and calling. And
right.
So we'll spend a week on that, which I'm excited for. And we'll have book groups on each of those two. We may have more than two, but we will for sure have two. So it's
like a pick your own adventure type thing.
Yeah.
Like if you want to go Screw Tape Letters or Failure of Nerve.
Yeah. Okay. I know for sure Paul and Lee Gorsuch are going to lead a book group.
Nice.
On the Screw Tape Letters. They're very thoughtful and godly and invested and just brilliant people. And on these book groups, we're probably going to end up more in that 4:00 kind of time frame. We felt like we had a lot of evening stuff this last time, so by the time people are hearing this, those book groups will be known. But and then Anthony Wood is going to lead one. He's still choosing between Failure of Nerve and Screw Tape Letters, which I'm kind of hoping he does. I'll be happy if he does either, but being a PhD in history, it'd be fun to have him do, because so much of the Failure of Nerve uses some historical metaphor.
Yeah, it does.
So, which
I feel like he would just enjoy that, because he has that background.
And shred it. He's already read it, and he's like, he uses it as an effective tool, but a lot of his history stinks.
If you're getting really technical. I think I remember him saying that, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
Because the working metaphor in Failure of Nerve, for anyone listening, is in the 1500s, it was people's fear of pushing themselves to explore the oceans, and how one culture did that really kind of, they pushed through their fear and broke through, and that must have been Portugal, and then that's how they became this huge player in that kind of global discovery kind of thing.
And yeah, that's right. So now I'm remembering, like, a whole piece of this book was, he's basically saying, if we stay in this place where we're so afraid, then no one's ever going to do anything, or like discoveries are being made, or like new things are being discovered, because everybody is so afraid.
Yeah, it's like normalizing the discomfort. I mean, I think that for me is one of the major takeaways here, is that it's nothing new, but it's been good to revisit that managing fear is a life skill. Sure. It shouldn't be a circumstantial desire. It should be something that we have the confidence that we can manage. I know, left to myself, I just gravitate towards comfort and security, but then it's hard to read the scriptures and look yourself in the mirror, because all of the biblical heroes were people who embraced an unknown future. Yeah,
that's fair.
And then I'm actually, like, ironically, the message that I did give in Atlanta last February, I'm going to pull that and rework some of that, just this idea around we're accountable for the grace that's given to us, which kind of goes with that, like, that which God calls you to do, go do it, because that's really what your life's made up of. So I'm hoping it'll be it's kind of like, I made the joke about ADHD a couple weeks ago, like, if we just allow that it's a continuum and therefore we're all on it.
Oh, right. Yeah, like a spectrum.
Yeah. I'm somewhat motivated by those who would say, like, we've over pathologized everything, and it's hard to say that without trivializing real pathological, I don't know if that's the right word, but like real medical issues, right? but at the same time recognize, I know for myself, I've worked really hard to eliminate the word anxiety from my vocabulary. And I'll sometimes say, what I would normally want to call anxiety, I'm just going to call like narcissism.
Fair.
And
Fair.
fear.
Yeah.
And that's part of what C.S. Lewis does in Screwtape Letters, is you can see his culture had such a higher value for courage than ours.
Yeah.
He's really hard on cowardice. And I left that thinking, I think what we call anxiety, which is a pathology, he would just call a virtue problem.
Sure.
And it's cowardice. And again, like, I'm not trying to blow up anybody who has real clinical anxiety,
Right.
but at the same time, culturally, it does seem like there's some there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why that piece of the Screwtape Letters where the demon is saying, get them to focus on their feelings, is so huge. And that, as a person with that experiences anxiety occasionally.
That would be more your default?
Yeah. The like, or that resonates with me anyways, to be like, what helps me is to get out of my own feelings. That always helps me, because if I sit there and focus on like me, the narcissism piece, and it's so true. Like,
totally.
That's what being nervous is. When I forget where I read that being nervous for public speaking or whatever it is a form of like vanity, essentially, because you're so focused on yourself. That when I read that, I was like, wow, that is so true. That when it comes down to it, like, that is a lot of what the fear is coming from, is what if I sound dumb, or what if I blah, 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 or it's...
Which is somewhat natural, but also, it's the most common thing. And again, I want to be careful when I ask people. I just booked our 250th reader.
Wow.
Which will happen sometime in November. But obviously, the most common response when people defer, and it's probably 40% say no, which is okay. Yep. But it's always like, oh, I would just be so nervous. And I try to, at times, graciously say, well, that's universal. I mean, everyone's nervous. But at the same time, I get that you and I are less nervous on a Sunday because it's familiar space. We do it every Sunday. So there's a reality to that as well. So I'm just hoping that, obviously, that's a cultural thing that is so prevalent, and we can all, even Jesus, it was the thing he talked about the most was fear. So it just feels like an opportunity to explore some concepts. I might even add a fifth one. I just this morning and I hadn't studied this. I'm looking forward to starting my quiet times probably tomorrow in this. It just occurred to me of, like, so much of my fear is of an unknown future. And yet there again, you can see how historically people have clung to the providence of God, and just the acknowledgement that it seems like it could be a fun way even to talk about Christmas Eve. Like Christmas Eve, everything about the big holidays tell us we don't have to fear the future because God is in charge. But it's easy to do.
I like that, though, as a lead up, because I just kept thinking, like, I feel like there's something to doing this time of year, like right before Advent, right before holidays and Christmas.
Yeah,
that could be it. So go through the weeks again of what we're...
So we'll start, first week we're going to we're just going to look at the fear of God and how that comes up in Scripture, based largely in Genesis 22. But then even, Proverbs 9, like the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That is so counterintuitive to our cultural mindset. So how did these ancient people come to believe this? And if God revealed it, like, what does it tell us? And then the second week, we're going to kind of flip it and talk about adventure and a God who calls us on adventure, which is, again, nothing new. We've talked about that in the past. Even The Hobbit is just a great read on, that's the best line of, when Gandalf says, I'm here to take you on adventure. And he says, I hate adventure. They're terrible things. They make you late for lunch or dinner or whatever it is. Like, I so relate to that. And that also speaks, I think, to the universal nature that Tolkien had his finger right on that pulse. And that, I think, is what's different between our culture and others is I'm left to myself. I expect a life free of fear. And it seems like C.S. Lewis didn't as a World War I vet, and Tolkien didn't as a World War I vet, and I wonder, leads me to believe we're probably the exception. And then the third week we're going to look at, somewhat ironically, in Luke's version of Love Your Enemy, part of what he explores there is that God gives us his grace, his Holy Spirit. And so I think there's a fun study in there of we're accountable to doing the things that God has empowered us to do. And that's a way that I've processed fear of, if God calls me to go to Atlanta or go to DC or do whatever, like at some point at a judgment, we're accountable for, did we allow God to empower us to do the very things that he called us to do? And then the fourth week, we're going to look at Philippians 4 and just a revisit of just the mental part of that, like all of the rejoice in the Lord always and pray continually. I'm a little bit insecure because that's the week Marty's here to lead worship. And I'm like, what a kind of a almost cliche week, but that's all right. We're going to do it.
So it's kind of like the toolbox week. Like how do we do this then?
Yeah, just Carolyn Leaf in her book has a lot to say around that of just how do we guard our thinking and what does that look like to take every thought captive and develop the mind of Christ, all those things. And lodged in between there because there's 2 weeks and then Ben's here on the 19th. Yeah, so we won't be in that series that week.
Okay.
I'm so excited for that Sunday. I was just thinking we got to start promoting that. That's a big deal that Ben's going to be here. So what is it, the 5th, the 12th, the 26th, and then November 2nd.
Okay. Yeah. And then if you add a fifth one, that'll be the 9th. Yeah, and I may even cut I don't know. I'm just kind of toying with it because I don't know. For some reason, I'm really self-conscious around that weekend Marty's here, which is dumb. And what we're referring to there is Marty, who leads worship at Chris's church in Atlanta, or it's their church, is going to lead, which will be, if all goes according to plan, your first maternity leave weekend. It'll be my first Sunday out, which will be weird.
Yeah, it'll be missed, but it'll be fun. And a couple really fun special guests on the radar then, I guess, that this is teasing out. Ben Chase, who's a pastor in Pasadena. He's properly English. He went to seminary in England. He's
got the accent and everything.
I'm excited for him to be here. One of the lowest on the candle Anglicans I've ever met, ironically, and he's from he's from Angle Land. And that's part of what he's really helped me with. And then Marty, who I think Marty and Chris started Trinity together.
That's the context that I get anyways, listening to.
So he's been leading worship there for 20 years or something. He's going to come lead.
With his wife. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, so I guess by the time this is out, book groups will be going across the internet and all of that, but I hope it's a meaningful series.
Yeah. If you'd like to learn more about Narrate Church, find us online at narratechurch.org.
You can also look us up on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening.